Expose wife's affair with DNA test and video proof. It all began with a small question, a seemingly innocent inquiry that unraveled my entire world. My wife, Emily, and I had been married for 8 years. We had built what I thought was a strong foundation, a cozy home, a beautiful 4-year-old daughter named Lily, and countless memories of love and partnership. But as it turned out, our life wasn't as perfect as I had believed. Emily's behavior started to change about a year ago. She became increasingly distant, spending more time on her phone, making excuses to leave the house, and attending work meetings that didn't add up. At first, I dismissed it as stress or exhaustion. We were both juggling demanding jobs and parenthood, after all. But as the excuses piled up, so did my doubts. The tipping point came when I overheard her on the phone one night. She was laughing in a way I hadn't heard in years, her voice light and flirtatious. When I asked who she was talking to, she claimed it was an old college friend. Something didn't sit right. I confided in my best friend, Mark, who suggested that I dig a little deeper. At first, I resisted. I didn't want to be the suspicious husband, but the nagging feeling in my gut wouldn't let go. I decided to investigate. The first thing I did was check her phone while she was in the shower. Locked behind a passcode I didn't know, it confirmed my fears more than any evidence could. If there was nothing to hide, why the secrecy? That's when I decided to install a discreet monitoring app on her phone. What I found shattered me. Emily had been texting a man named Ryan, a co-worker. The messages were explicit, filled with plans to meet up and references to their time together. My heart sank further when I found hotel reservations under her name. I felt a mix of rage, betrayal, and heartbreak. But what came next was worse. During one of her work meetings, I followed her. She didn't go to the office, but to a hotel across town. I sat in my car, seething, watching as she entered the building hand in hand with Ryan. I recorded everything. I needed proof, not just for myself, but for what I knew would come later. The DNA test was almost an afterthought, but I had to know. A part of me clung to the hope that Lily was unquestionably mine. When the results came back, they confirmed my fears. There was a 0% chance I was her biological father. Confronting Emily was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I laid the evidence on the table. The DNA test results, the text messages, and the video. Her face went pale, and for a moment, she said nothing. Then the excuses poured out. She was lonely. She felt neglected. She didn't mean for it to go this far. None of it mattered. The damage was done. I filed for divorce the next day, and we're now in the middle of a messy custody battle. The irony isn't lost on me. She's fighting to keep a child she lied to me about. I still love Lily as if she were my own, but the betrayal cuts deep. Every now and then, I wonder if I could have done something differently to save our marriage. But deep down, I know that trust, once broken, can't always be repaired. Emily's affair didn't just destroy our relationship. It tore apart the family I thought we had built together. And while I may never fully heal, I know one thing for sure. I deserve honesty, respect, and love. And so does Lily. Moving forward from the wreckage has been one of the hardest challenges of my life. In the immediate aftermath of exposing Emily's affair, my world felt like it was crumbling. There was the grief of losing the marriage I thought I had, the gut-wrenching realization that Lily wasn't biologically mine, and the sheer anger at the betrayal. But amidst all the pain, one thing became crystal clear. I couldn't let this define the rest of my life. After filing for divorce, I sought therapy. At first, it felt pointless. How could talking about the hurt possibly mend the gaping hole in my chest? But my therapist, Sarah, taught me to focus on what I could control. My healing, my future, and most importantly, my relationship with Lily. Lily, even now, the thought of her lights a flicker of warmth in my heart. Biology doesn't dictate love. For 4 years, I'd been her father, her protector, her guide. That didn't just vanish because of a DNA test. Though the revelation was devastating, it only strengthened my resolve to remain in her life. Emily and I agreed to keep Lily unaware of the truth for now. She's too young to understand, and I couldn't bear to see her world shattered like mine had been. Despite everything, Emily remained adamant that I was still the only father Lily has ever known, and on this, at least, we found common ground. But even with this shared goal, co-parenting has been tense. Every interaction with Emily feels like walking through a minefield of unresolved emotions. She's apologized countless times, but the trust is gone. I've made it clear that our relationship is now purely transactional, focused solely on what's best for Lily. The hardest part has been dealing with the judgment of others. Once the details of Emily's affair and the DNA test leaked to our wider circle, everyone had an opinion. Some friends were supportive, rallying around me and offering help whenever they could. Others, however, questioned why I was still fighting for Lily. "She's not even your kid," one so-called friend said. Those words stung, but they also fueled my determination. Lily might not share my blood, but she shares my love, my memories, and my hopes for her future. That's what matters. Still, the legal battle has been draining. Emily's lawyers initially tried to argue that my lack of biological connection to Lily meant I had no right to custody. Thankfully, my attorney was quick to shut that down. The law, it turns out, recognizes the importance of the bond we've built. It's been a slow journey, but there are moments of light. On weekends when I have Lily, her laughter fills my home again. We bake cookies, watch her favorite cartoons, and paint messy pictures that end up all over my fridge. Those moments remind me that no matter how broken I feel, she gives me a reason to keep going. As for Emily, I don't know what the future holds for her. She's expressed regret, and while I've forgiven her for my own peace, I know we can never go back. I've heard through mutual acquaintances that her relationship with Ryan fizzled out quickly. Apparently, their connection couldn't withstand the fallout of her exposed lies. Looking back, I realize the experience has shaped me in ways I didn't anticipate. It's made me more cautious, yes, but also more resilient. I've learned the value of trusting my instincts, setting boundaries, and prioritizing my well-being. Most importantly, I've learned that love isn't about DNA or shared bloodlines. Love is about showing up day after day, even when it's hard. It's about wiping away tears, celebrating milestones, and being a steady presence in someone's life. That's what I'll continue to do for Lily, no matter what. And while I may not have the family I once envisioned, I know I have something just as precious: the chance to rebuild, to heal, and to create a new kind of happiness. As the months turned into a year, life slowly started to feel less like a storm and more like a calm after it. The divorce was finalized, and I was awarded shared custody of Lily. Despite everything, it felt like a victory, a validation of the bond we shared, one that no test could undermine. Emily and I maintained a cordial relationship for Lily's sake, but that was the extent of our connection. She moved into a smaller place across town, and though we communicated about school schedules, doctor's appointments, and extracurricular activities, our conversations were limited to logistics. Lily, blissfully unaware of the turmoil, continued to thrive. She started kindergarten, her boundless curiosity and infectious giggles making her the center of attention in her class. Her teacher once told me, "Lily is one of the happiest kids I've ever met." Hearing that felt like a small but significant reassurance that I was doing something right. One evening, as I tucked Lily into bed, she wrapped her tiny arms around my neck and whispered, "You're the best daddy ever." Those words melted away any lingering doubts I'd carried. In her eyes, I was her dad. No DNA test could change that. But the journey wasn't without challenges. Co-parenting with Emily had its tense moments. There were disagreements over parenting styles, miscommunications about schedules, and the occasional flare-up of unresolved emotions. However, we both knew that Lily came first, and over time, we found a fragile equilibrium. As I started to rebuild my life, I hesitantly dipped my toes back into the dating world. It wasn't easy. The scars of betrayal made it hard to trust again, and I often second-guessed myself. But I realized that not everyone would hurt me the way Emily did. Slowly, I began to open up, going on a few dates here and there. One woman, Rachel, stood out. She was kind, patient, and understanding of my situation. She didn't shy away from my past, but instead admired my commitment to Lily. As we grew closer, Rachel and Lily formed a bond of their own. Watching them interact was like a breath of fresh air, proof that love could be gentle and uncomplicated. Emily, surprisingly, was supportive of my new relationship. Whether it was out of guilt or genuine goodwill, I couldn't say. She even commented once, "Rachel seems great with Lily." I chose to take it at face value and move on. One night, during a quiet dinner with Rachel, I found myself opening up about everything. The affair, the DNA test, the pain, and the journey that followed. She listened intently, holding my hand across the table. When I finished, she looked me in the eye and said, "You've been through so much, but the way you've stayed strong for Lily, it's incredible. She's lucky to have you." Her words stayed with me, a reminder that the road I had walked, though painful, was worth it. Now, as I write this, I can say with certainty that life has taken a turn for the better. My relationship with Lily remains unshakable. She's the light of my life, and every day, she reminds me of what truly matters. Emily and I have reached a place of mutual respect, even if we'll never be friends. Rachel has become an important part of my life, and for the first time in a long time, I feel hopeful about the future. The journey here wasn't easy, but it taught me invaluable lessons about resilience, love, and the importance of holding on to what truly matters. And though the scars of betrayal will always be a part of my story, they don't define me. What defines me is the choice I made to keep moving forward, to love unconditionally, and to build a life worth living for myself and for Lily. Years passed, and the wounds that once felt raw began to fully heal, leaving behind scars that told a story of survival and resilience. Lily was growing up fast. Too fast, it seemed sometimes. She was now a bright, spirited 8-year-old with a love for soccer and a knack for asking questions that always kept me on my toes. One evening, after a long day of school and practice, Lily and I sat together on the couch, flipping through an old photo album. She loved hearing stories about when she was little, and I cherished these moments as an opportunity to relive the happier times. "Daddy," she said, her voice tinged with curiosity, "why don't I see Mommy and you together in any new pictures?" Her question hit me like a freight train. I had always known this day would come, but it didn't make it any easier. I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts before responding. "Well, sweetheart," I began gently, "sometimes grown-ups realize that they're better at being friends than being together. But even though Mommy and I aren't together anymore, we both love you more than anything in the whole world." Lily seemed to consider this, her small brow furrowed in thought. "But you're still my daddy, right?" she asked, her voice small but steady. Tears pricked at my eyes as I pulled her into a hug. "Always, Lily. No matter what, you'll always be my little girl." That moment reaffirmed everything I had fought for, every hard decision, every sleepless night, every tear shed. My love for Lily was unconditional, unshakable, and it would never waver. As Lily grew older, I continued to navigate the complexities of co-parenting with Emily. There were still occasional disagreements, but we both worked hard to keep the peace for Lily's sake. Emily even seemed to have turned a corner, making a genuine effort to prioritize Lily's happiness over her own issues. Rachel became a more permanent fixture in our lives, and after years of dating, we decided to take the next step. When I proposed to her, it was in a quiet, intimate setting, just the two of us and Lily. Rachel had become more than a partner. She was my best friend and a loving presence in Lily's life. The day of our wedding was simple but beautiful. Lily stood by my side as my flower girl, beaming with pride. Rachel's vows included a heartfelt promise to love Lily as her own, and there wasn't a dry eye in the room when she knelt down to say those words directly to her. Life continued to move forward in ways I hadn't imagined during those dark days of betrayal. The pain of the past had been replaced by a sense of gratitude for the life I had rebuilt. My relationship with Lily deepened as she grew into a young woman, her resilience and strength reflecting the love and care she had received along the way. Occasionally, I would reflect on how different things could have been if the truth had never come out. While it was tempting to think about a life without the heartbreak, I knew that the revelations, painful as they were, had ultimately led me to a place of growth and new beginnings. And so, as I tucked Lily into bed one night, her favorite stuffed animal clutched tightly in her arms, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. "Good night, Daddy," she murmured sleepily. "Good night, my little star," I whispered, leaning down to kiss her forehead. In that moment, I realized that love wasn't about perfection or even about biology. It was about showing up day after day for the people who matter most. And for me, that made all the difference. As time marched forward, life settled into a rhythm that felt both familiar and new. Lily's teenage years brought their own unique challenges. Late-night talks about school drama, navigating her blossoming independence, and the occasional bout of teenage rebellion. Through it all, our bond only grew stronger. One evening, as we sat at the kitchen table working on her science project, she paused and looked at me with an expression I'd come to recognize as her serious face. "Dad," she began hesitantly, "can I ask you something important?" "Of course, kiddo. What's on your mind?" I replied, setting my pen down to give her my full attention. "Why don't I look like you?" she asked, her voice soft but direct. The question hung in the air, heavy with the weight of everything it implied. My heart sank, but I knew this moment would come eventually. She was older now, and the time for half-truths and vague explanations had passed. Taking a deep breath, I leaned forward and met her gaze. "Lily," I began, "there's something I've wanted to tell you for a long time, but I was waiting for the right moment. You're old enough now to understand, and I think it's time you knew the full story." I explained everything, not in exhaustive detail, but enough for her to understand the truth. I told her about Emily's affair, the DNA test, and how it didn't matter to me because she was and always would be my daughter. Tears welled up in her eyes, and for a moment, I feared I had broken something precious. But then she reached across the table and grabbed my hand. "You're still my dad," she said firmly, her voice steady despite the tears. "You're the one who's been there for me my whole life. That's what matters." Her words were a balm to my soul, reaffirming what I had always known deep down. From that day on, our relationship reached a new level of honesty and closeness. Lily never let the truth shake her sense of who she was or who I was to her. Instead, it became a testament to the strength of our bond, a reminder that family is built on love, not just biology. As Lily prepared to leave for college, the house felt emptier without her constant chatter and laughter. Rachel and I adjusted to the quieter days, finding joy in our shared hobbies and quiet evenings together. Still, the ache of watching Lily grow up and leave home was bittersweet. She thrived in college, calling often to share her successes and occasional struggles. On one visit home during her sophomore year, she hugged me tightly and said, "Thank you for everything, Dad, for always being there, even when things weren't easy." Her words reminded me of how far we had come, of the journey from heartbreak to healing. Now, as I sit on the porch, watching the sunset with Rachel by my side, I feel an overwhelming sense of peace. Life didn't turn out the way I had planned, but in many ways, it turned out better than I could have hoped. Lily is the living proof of that. A bright, compassionate young woman who carries with her the love and lessons of a family that weathered the storm together. In the end, the affair and the betrayal were just chapters in a much larger story, one of resilience, forgiveness, and the enduring power of love. And for that, I'm grateful as the years passed. Life continued to unfold in ways I never expected, each chapter bringing new joys, challenges, and lessons. Lily graduated college with honors, a moment that filled me with immeasurable pride. Watching her walk across that stage in her cap and gown, I couldn't help but reflect on everything we had been through to reach this point. After the ceremony, she came up to me, her eyes glistening with happy tears. "I couldn't have done this without you, Dad," she said, pulling me into a tight hug. "You did this all on your own," I replied, my voice thick with emotion. "But I'm so proud to have been by your side every step of the way." It was a moment that reaffirmed everything I had fought for. No matter the circumstances of her birth, I was her father in every way that mattered. Not long after, Lily landed a job in her dream field, and her career quickly took off. She moved to a bustling city hours away, and while I miss having her close, I took comfort in knowing she was thriving. Rachel and I made frequent trips to visit her, often taking her out to dinner or spending weekends exploring her new city. During one of those visits, Lily introduced us to someone special, a kind, intelligent young man named Daniel. It was clear from the start how much he cared for her. Watching her find happiness in her own relationships was both heartwarming and bittersweet, a reminder of how much she had grown. As Lily's life blossomed, Rachel and I settled into our golden years. We found joy in the little things, tending to our garden, traveling to places we had always dreamed of visiting, and spending quiet evenings reminiscing about the life we had built together. Emily, too, had found her own version of peace. She remarried a few years after our divorce, and though our interactions were still limited to co-parenting matters, we managed to maintain a respectful relationship. Occasionally, during family milestones, we'd all come together, Rachel, Emily, and even Daniel's family, proving that time and effort could mend even the most fractured relationships. The defining moment of this new chapter came when Lily got engaged. She asked me to walk her down the aisle, a request that left me speechless and teary-eyed. "Of course I will," I said, pulling her into a hug. It would be the greatest honor of my life. On her wedding day, as I stood beside her, ready to guide her down the aisle, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. This was the culmination of everything: the heartbreak, the healing, the years of love and support. When we reached Daniel at the altar, Lily turned to me and whispered, "Thank you for being the best dad anyone could ask for." Her words stayed with me long after the ceremony, a testament to the unbreakable bond we had forged. Now, as I sit on the porch of our home, watching the sun set on another beautiful day, I reflect on the journey that brought me here. Life didn't go as planned, but it gave me so much more than I ever imagined. A loving wife, a strong and independent daughter, and the knowledge that love is defined not by perfection but by persistence and care. Lily's story, our story, is a reminder that even in the face of betrayal and pain, it's possible to rebuild, to find joy, and to create a life filled with love and meaning. And for that, I will always be grateful.